This is Donna and this is Jim, each with a family that had to begin again. As they've brought their worlds together, they've learned a lot about blending families and finances along the way. Now, they're here to help you take on this new chapter with clarity and confidence. This is Wisdom and Wealth, financial clarity for families in transition.
It's the Halloween edition of Wisdom and Wealth, and I thought we'd have a little fun this week, guys, and just maybe share a financial or just a Halloweeny story of some kind, something scary or something, whatever the case might be, whatever floats your boat in the spirit of Halloween. So I thought we'd have some fun this week here. What's going on, Donna? How you doing?
We're doing good. I like this creepy stuff. October is not just birthday months for almost all of us, but Halloween is really, I think I've shared it 2 years ago in October. Free candy as a kid worked my way. So I have a big affection for Halloween. Can you imagine me all hyper on chocolate, Jim, as a little kid?
That'd be
I'm a big fan as an adult.
There you go.
Be a
exactly.
little kid for free candy.
Yeah, I know. I want to go trick-or-treating. Well, so happy birthday then to whomever in the family had birthdays in October. That's cool.
Oh, thank you. There's, I think all but 2, right?
Yes, 6 out of the 8 people in the family are.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you guys are loaded up with candy
month.
and presents or something. Cake month, something. Yeah, exactly.
Cake month.
All right, well, let's jump in here. Let's get started with something. So, Donna, I'll let you go first since this is your program and everything. But a financial horror story or a good one or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and I used to always say, back before I was a financial advisor, so many people might try to scare you into action or something like that.
Sure.
But then
Okay.
I find as I experience more with my clients, especially many of my widows, my divorcees, there are stories that come out of it. And so instead of it saying a scary story, it's let me share this story with you so we can all learn something. The biggest one that just resonates with me because it scared me so much that I share it with all of my clients was married couple. Mid-40s, house was in his name. She kind of was just happy to kind of have what I call the old-fashioned understanding of you just take care of all the money and I'll be here taking care of the house and the kids and we're good. No problems with that. But we want awareness, right? Know where things are, know how things are titled. So he passed suddenly. And when he passed, it wound up that there was no will. And because the house was just in his name and there was kids that were adult children too, everything settles according to the state, right? Because it's intestate. You didn't have a will. And so she is now co-owners of the house, not that was supposed to be just in hers, right? He just assumed she would receive it with her children. So any changes she wants to make with her lifestyle or her life has to be approved with kids who now have ownership in her house. That's tough. That's really tough. And I don't think that was the dynamic that they thought they would wind into. So life insurance, really important. Estate documents, really important. And making sure everything is titled joint and survivorship or joint and common, whatever works for your state, as well as beneficiary designation, right? I'm going to keep going with my scary stories. The other scary story for me as a financial advisor is when I sit at a table with clients and it's a widower, and they pull out that life insurance. They find out that their spouse is not the beneficiary designated. It was a life insurance they got in their 20s and it's their cousin Fifi or it's their old girlfriend Fifi who's beneficiary of the life insurance and that spouse has no comeback for it. That's just how it settles. Scary to be there and have to announce that or to share that reality with one of my clients. So beneficiary updates, designations, big things.
And that's an easy one to fix. I just saw a story not too long ago, Donna. It was a really interesting, weird one, and I'm going to probably mess up some of the details, but that's totally fine. But it was a couple. It was a dating couple. I think in the 80s that he had made her his beneficiary on a job he had gotten at some company or factory or whatever. And, fast forward, so they break up maybe 6 or 7 years later. He doesn't think anything of it, whatever, because he just, whatever. And 30 years goes by. He works for the same place for 30 years, never changed her on there because he never got married. And I guess it was all done on paper before they went digital, before the company went digital. And so now he's got a brother or a family member who's contesting the whole thing because technically she's still listed. And so she's the recipient of all of this stuff. And it's getting all really kind of drawn out and all sorts of crazy stuff in there. But it kind of belies the fact that it's so simple to update this and get the right stuff done, right? This is a very low hanging fruit option that you can do to avoid a scary story.
Yeah, it's true. And it is because I've been uncomfortable sitting at a table, having to deliver that information to clients who I care about, and that this life insurance policy was probably the key to change some things in their lives financially after the loss of a spouse, that I don't want that to happen. So when my clients sit down, even when they're not my clients, we're talking. I'm like, we are going to talk about importance of financial planning, about life insurance and the role it's going to play, as well as your estate documents. And I'm not an estate attorney, right? But we're going to talk about them because I need my clients to have them, because I don't want to be the awkward person sitting at the table. That's scary.
Very true. Very true. All right, Jim, we're going to put you on the spot a little bit here. Let you share something with us on the Halloween episode. It can be whatever you like, but I'm sure that, in construction, there's always something that probably goes wrong.
Oh, it's every day. No, we're talking about like in the financial world with it, like you said, budgeting. And the change in material cost, and forget about duration. But I've had jobs when I was an estimator that it was during COVID, and material went from $36 a sheet of plywood all the way to $200 a sheet from the time I estimate it till the time I build it. I had to fight for that extra money, and we had to meet halfway. We took a huge hit. Yeah. And stuff gets out of control. And like you said, people changing ideas, adding to them, and still expecting that budget to stay the same. And it's impossible.
No. Yeah. It doesn't work.
Little changes snowball. It affects multiple things.
Yeah. That's true.
And like I said, and you budget certain things for your life, and you think this is going to be for the future. Like you said, even preparing for when you're older or doing whatever. And once you're halfway in it, you got to finish it. You have no choice. You have to finish it and figure out what you're going to do with that. How to make it happen and how to regroup afterwards. Yeah. And you might have to cancel a lot of other things that you expected, whether it's downtime or travel or anything. We've been lucky that we've been pretty on target, Donna and I, with our projects.
Well, you got an ace in the hole there, so that kind of helps.
It's all her. I had nothing to do with it. I'm told we're good.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, Donna, okay, that's an interesting point. So with what Jim does from home and budgeting and building, and then with what you do. So like I got a little Halloween shock the other day. I went to Jim. We're going to be recoating my roof on my my metal building, the studio. And, I bought some of this stuff a couple years ago or whatever the case was. And then I want to say it was like $150 for a 5-gallon pail of this stuff. And it's like that rubber coating stuff, right? Well, it's double that. I went in to get it and I got the shock when it was $400. Yeah. I'm like, and I've got to get how many buckets to do the whole thing? It's a big building. And I'm like, man, I didn't plan for that. So Donna, then it comes back over to your department and it's like, okay, I'm a retiree. Let's say I'm a retiree and I'm now having to spend 3 times as much as I had budgeted for this particular project. I wonder, what does that do to my, my monthly structure or whatever, right? Like you can kind of see where you're going with that. You can take that into any story you want to, but inflation and those things, it does scare retirees.
Yeah, it scares them on top of many different reasons, right? Because then where do they get the money, right? That might have to be a withdrawal from their traditional IRA. Let's say that's what it is. Well, then if they take too much, they might be in a higher income bracket. And then, when you're in a higher income bracket, that's going to affect the cost of your Medicare Part B. Things like that. Like that is the domino effect that takes place. And I am going to backtrack. Mr. Jim was saying, I don't know where we are. I encourage all of my clients to sit down at least once a month and show one another where we are financially as a global picture. And if you sit there and you smoke or you get your coffee and you're like, good, that looks nice, and you walk away, I am not responsible. Our poor children are going to have to deal with you if something happens to me. Love you.
I am definitely updated on everything. It's just a lot of nodding and putting trust on that.
I saw that look on the face. I tried to tell a story and get you out of it, buddy, but
you should be scared.
Onto it.
You should be scared for sharing that on a podcast.
So the Halloween effect is in play.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
She always asks me, do you want to know this? Do you want, let me update you on this. Just ask any questions. And I'm like, I'm all right.
But whenever I travel for work, I'll call another financial advisor. I'm like, if something happens to me on this trip, because I am paranoid when I travel, please take care of my Jim. And so she knows, that's the first call she's going to make. Like, hi, my name's Sherry. I'm going to take care of you, Jim. Like, this is what has to happen. I'm sorry, Mark, what were you going to say?
No, that's okay, because that's a great real illustration, Donna, of what happens in financial advisors' offices all the time, right? There can be one person who's like, this ain't my thing. I don't care, whatever. That's why we hired you, and my partner's got it, or whatever. And they're like, And Murphy's Law will happen, and the other person, the one who knows everything, will be the one that passes away first, and you're sitting there going, now what? Right?
I know.
So that's a great point, not to throw Jim under the bus, but that's a great point that it's a real thing that happens between couples. So you got to address it.
It is.
No one's going to need a financial advisor, planner more than me if something happens.
Well, it's a good thing you married one.
I know.
Fine.
I highly recommend marrying one. Yes.
There you go.
Good.
But
real nice.
yeah, but I mean, like, seriously though, like, this is something you see pretty often, I'm sure. Like, and that's why I think, as so many advisors also stress, both people coming in, right?
Yeah.
If you're married, both people need to be engaged.
Yeah. And that's also too, like, we call it a personal document locator. And it is those little things like, where are the passwords, right? Do we have a password aggregator? Where are the keys to the safe deposit box? Like, writing those things down, right? We just had an issue where, because we are redoing parts of the house, right? We moved a safe, right? From like the second floor to the third floor. And when we moved it, we kind of put it on its side. Well, did you all know that safes, like big fireproof safes, have condensation within them? And guess what happens when you put it on its side? Condensation can come in, and all of our paperwork, like our essential documents, got wet, right?
Oh.
We're lucky that we actually were able to find it within a day or two and dry everything out. So now if something happens, the question is, Jim, do you know where everything is now that it's not in the safe? Do you know where everything is?
And he's froze. Jim, fake that the screen froze.
I know it's either in the house or the office.
Well done. That's great. I'm just going to keep going. The other thing that always is scary for me when I think to, like, so Jim and I are a little bit older, getting married in this industry. But I knew Jim when he was, God, when we first met, before we were dating, you were helping me with my house, right? And projects within the house. And you had just stepped away from being a union carpenter. How many carpenters do you know that get injured and either don't treat it or fake it because they can't be on disability? Right? Or they can't go ahead and afford life because they have young kids. They have a wife that's either a nurse or a teacher, and there's no coverage for the kids at all either. And they have to keep working with injuries. They just tie their boots tighter, they duct tape up their ankles, and they keep going. So scary for the longevity of your industry, scary for people who can't afford to take that disability and allow themselves to heal. That is when we always lecture, I lecture, and I insist on saving for a cash reserve first, at least 3 months of covering those bills. Because I used to worry about, you, like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen if he gets hurt to my own project? Because I'm selfish, right? But like, if he gets hurt, who's going to finish this for his cost? He's affordable.
There you go.
She would have duct taped my ankles together just to make me finish.
That's right. Get out there.
I always had duct tape there. But you've seen when you were younger as a carpenter, was that something that you worried about or that you saw your peers worry about?
Actually, you don't worry about. Oddly enough, we had great health coverage, but it's, it is, you get injured and the doctor clears you and says you're on light and limited duty. You're good. Well, that just means you're out of work. There's no such thing as light and limited.
Right,
so you
right.
actually kind of it kind of hits you both ways. So you just try to hope it works out for the best and just keep going about your
keep
day.
going. Yeah.
Every hour you don't work, you don't get paid. So.
Very true. Very true. Well, Jim, I got to say, buddy, this is the Halloween episode, and you definitely you're in the spider web today, my friend. So you've gotten a couple of looks on this one. And I recognize those looks because my wife is environmental safety and health, and she'll see me doing some projects around the house, and she's like, you're not tied off. You're not on that ladder properly. It's not at the proper angle. And she's like, you're terrible for my job. So she's like, good thing no one's watching this. And unfortunately, someone's watching this. So you're in trouble, buddy.
Make sure she doesn't stop by my house while I'm working.
Exactly. Don't go over there. there. You're good. You're good. So, well, good stuff, guys. Thanks for hanging out and breaking out some stories and sharing some stuff. And I mean, look, life is life, right? I mean, things are going to happen to the point about the safe or whatever. I mean, there's always going to be a little something. And so having a strategy, having a plan, having a backup plan on that, not the worst idea. And it keeps you out of trouble. Or just marry an advisor. And then that makes it,
Highly
that works
recommend.
too. Yeah. And marry a carpenter because you get, stuff at cost. So.
And it looks beautiful. You come home and you're like, wow, it didn't look this way when I left. It does look nice.
There you go. You guys are a fantastic team. And that's going to do it this week on the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us, having a little Halloween fun. If you got a scary story of your own you want to share, drop some notes in the comments below. Don't forget to check the show note details for ways to get in touch with Donna. If you've got some financial questions as well, obviously you want to sit down with a qualified professional and make sure that you're having the right conversation. As of course, Donna is a certified financial planner and a certified divorce financial analyst. So reach out to her at seftonfinancial.com. That's seftonfinancial.com. Again, all the information is in the show details and the links below. And we'll see you next time here on the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us on Wisdom and Wealth with Donna and Jim.
Registered representative offering securities through Cetera Financial Specialists, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services are offered through Cetera Investment Advisors, LLC. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Sefton Financial, LLC and Cetera are not affiliated. Sefton Financial is located at 8200 Flowertown Avenue, Suite 1B in Windmore, Pennsylvania, 19038.